And the increase in skin cancer in Australia and other places where the ozone layers become depleted. Because the sun's rays are not being blocked anymore and they're starting to cause cancers. So, does life exist without an ozone layer? It would not. It would be radiated out of existence. Look at these optimal conditions. The Earth spins on its axis once every 24 hours. Imagine the Earth was going really, 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 really slow. Right? Really slow. So the sun is shining on one part of the Earth's surface for, say, 20 years. That's how slowly the Earth is spinning. What would happen? One part of the Earth's surface would be superheated, another part of the Earth's surface would be supercooled. And I could go on and on. We could talk about water, how water has an incredible quality. If water did not have the quality that it did, life would not exist. So what we find is a super precise mechanism. I invite anyone to find me an example made by human beings of such a precise mechanism. You'll not find it. How could such, if we saw such a precise mechanism and we found one, we would automatically presume that some super intelligent person or group of people had managed to make this thing. It is therefore only common sense that when we look around us and we see these things, that we conclude there must be some intelligence, some power behind this. And this power must be very powerful, very wise, very intelligent. And it's also common sense to realize that this being cannot be like the creation. This being cannot be like the creation. Because if this being was like the creation, then that being would not be the creator. That being would just be another creation. And that would need another creator. And we only end up with the same dilemma. We have creators creating creators forever, and that's actually not possible. And the reason it's not possible, just to tell you briefly why it's not possible, and I'll give you an example, I'll give you an analogy. If I said to someone, oh, can you help me lift up this podium? I can't do it by myself. And you say, sure, I will help you lift up the podium, but I need someone else to help me. And that person says, well, I'll help you only if you help me. And so if everyone makes the condition that I will only help if someone ever helps, will this podium ever be lifted? Huh? Will never be lifted, right? So if you have creators creating creators creating creators ad infinitum, you never get anything created. Right? Okay. So it makes sense that the creator is infinite, eternal, without beginning, without end. The creator is self-sufficient. We summarize all of this by saying transcendent, that the creator is not like anything in this universe. And that how could you have more than one transcendent being? And even again, common sense tells us that the precision that we find and the unity that we find in the creational process makes us understand there could only be one mastermind behind this. If there were different creators, in fact, what we would find would be chaos and disunity, not this type of consistent precision throughout our universe. And this is why, really, it makes so much sense to believe. It's common sense to believe that there is one God, that there is one wise, powerful, intelligent creator that is unique, who has brought this universe into existence. This is common sense. This is reason. This is why human beings, as I said, everywhere, historically, you will find in every culture, there is this belief in the transcendent creator. You see, the Quran says that in fact, the real problem with the human beings is not that they don't believe in God. Most human beings believe in God, and they believe that there is one God, meaning they believe that there is one creator. But what they do is they actually give to the created things some of the powers or the knowledge that in fact only rightly belongs to God. So they attribute to the creation they imagine that some things in the creation have powers that only God has. Or sometimes they also attribute to God some of the deficiencies and the shortcomings in the creation. And the reason they do this is because they speak about God without knowledge. They invent things because actually the truth is that what we can know about God through reason and common sense is in fact severely limited. Now some people, when they are faced with that limitation, they've come up with different ideas. If you look at the philosophical tradition and the Western philosophical tradition, okay, you have a group of people who lived and they were very influential in the last 200 years. They were called deists. Deists believed that there was a creator. They believed that it was extremely logical to believe that this universe had a creator. But they did not believe in a personal God. In other words, they didn't believe that God actually really cared about human beings. So this God created the universe, but about us, and the idea that we could have some sort of contact and relationship with this God, they considered that to be, they didn't believe that. Okay? They dismissed this. But philosophically, they understood the power of this belief in this idea that there was this supreme being. Many other people came to this same type of conclusion. But what they believed is that, no, we could communicate with God, but not directly. God is so different from us that, you can't have any direct communication with God. And then what they obviously did is they began to imagine, and this is where they begin to start thinking that God has some of the deficiencies of the creation. And they start to imagine that God is like a created thing, which actually contradicts their original premise. They end up contradicting themselves. But, for example, idol worshippers. Most intelligent idol worshippers don't actually claim that the idol itself that they are worshipping actually has any power. They believe that somehow these idols represent spirits or powers or beings that can be intermediaries or intercessors between them and God. And they give an example. They say, for example, look, if you want to go and see Tony Blair, yeah, I'm not saying this is exactly the example they give, but if you want to go and see Tony Blair, you don't just go up and say, hey Tony, can I have a chat with you? So like, oh my God, it's one of those Muslims, run, okay? No, I mean, they will say, no, you have to go through Tony's cronies, yeah? You have to go through the cronies of Tony, right, if you want to get to him. So you have to go to those people who he knows, or even you have to go through the cronies of the cronies, or the cronies of the cronies of the cronies, depending, yeah? If you're really like just a nobody, but of course if you're rich and middle class, you could probably get to see him straight away. If you have enough money, he might even come to visit you, yeah? But for you ordinary people, Muslims, yeah, especially those veiled women, you could take your veil off, then maybe we'll talk to you. Yeah? Okay? No. You have to go through special channels. And they say, well, it's like that with God, you see. You can't just talk straight to God. You have to go through those people who are close to God. You have to go to the priest who will then talk to, this super sort of semi-God who will pass on the message bit by bit. You have to go through. So they imagine God is like a king or a prime minister or something, surrounded by all these cronies and these sort of demigods and these things. That's how you have to get to God. That's how they portray it. Okay? Of course, the problem with this is that immediately these people have presumed that God suffers from the limitations and the deficiencies of the human beings. Right? Because why does Tony need cronies? Can anyone tell me? Why does Tony need cronies? Because he's a human being